kind of test it, and after this class,
they had
let
a
me just do the
finance person, so I
configuration.
called her and I went, after I hung
Oh,
up,
okay.
my God,
I'll have to be
I'm
quick.
working with her because she's,
Yeah.
But I gotta run.
you're
Yeah.
money from the East Coast and
You can
blah, blah, blah,
minimize
stuff
this.
that we've learned red flag. So I
And
just said a good
then,
idea would be to just meet with Matthew, so you
Yeah.
can see two different
We're good.
ones, like you interviewed 3 agents, same thing. See
Yeah,
the
5 people
program,
online.
blah, blah, blah,
Great.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sure.
People are watching me?
Finally got them together.
No,
And the
your
day
picture is not showing. It's
after
just
They're not
Matthew's
seeing
date,
me eating my lunch, are they?
no.
I had it in the
It's
car.
this is how they're
Found
seeing
what they wanted.
your
I
Okay.
wrote up the offer. It took me 4 days to write it up. Because
That's
it was
good.
so complicated to me. And
Yeah.
they backed out.
Mhm.
And so, but they said, maybe we're going to wait and keep renting. And I said, no, you told me you don't want to pay rent anymore. We're going tomorrow. So I got them in the car. We found something right away. I wrote it up. They love it, love it, love it. It was accepted.
All right.
There was multiple offers.
All right.
All right. Of course, I'll tell you everything. Yeah, I'll tell you anything. I'll help anybody in here. The better we are, the better we are.
But every deal, it's nice.
Oh, it's so interesting. I really like your glasses, man. I like these glasses on you.
I've had them for a while.
They're handsome. You look
Oh,
handsome.
thank
You
you.
are so handsome. I always
Thank
like
you.
to look at you too. You're just pretty to look at.
Yeah, you got
Is
your
that
nice
okay to say?
haircut and everything.
Oh, no, I'll take it.
You're
Thank
just
you.
so neat and nice.
Yeah. And you
We're
look
getting
good
a lot
in
of
black.
compliments
Yeah.
lately. Good job, man.
Okay. Other than, okay.
Are we through? Sorry.
No, it's fine. Okay. You said you had questions about Form 21.
I do, sir.
So why don't we start with those?
Thank you. So on the number 5, included items, attached televisions, a lot of the listings that I go into, they have televisions that are bolted to the wall. And the one that I just wrote up is no exception. However, I didn't check the box because it wasn't listed in the listing agreement. And I want to know how you would address something like that. No one argued about it. I just want to know that I am representing my buyer for in this transaction correctly. Should I have said something about that?
Because they wanted the TV.
They never said a thing about it. I'm just curious for
Oh, you
if,
didn't? Oh,
no.
okay. All right.
Like, would that have been a win-win for me to get that for them, or is it fine?
It would have been an argument.
Okay. So
Let me
just,
open it. Come on. Okay. 2 things. First, included items. You know, you were good because you know it said attached TVs. That's all in there now because there have been arguments about, you know, people buying a house and go, wait, that, you know, that screen was attached to the wall. Technically, the screens are not attached to the wall, folks.
interesting.
What's attached to the wall is the bracket. That is attached to the wall. What I always do is always talk to your buyers. Also talk to your sellers. I mean, when I'm listing, I say, hey, you know, what about the TV is up on the wall? Because I've had sellers go, oh no, I'm going to take that the bracket with me and all. And I go, seriously? Because I said, if you want to take that bracket, you're going to have to restore that wall completely in the condition it was before you put on that bracket. You just don't take it off the wall and leave some big old hole in there where you had bolts and things. And that usually makes my sellers go, oh, yeah, I don't want to do that. Because those brackets are like $200, if not cheaper nowadays. So they're very little money. But the TV's not attached. It's just screwed on and screwed off. But the reason it says attached TV here is if a seller, to make their home more marketable, might say, hey, we're going to leave a washer, a dryer, and TVs. I've sold a home where we did.
More marketable.
But what you need to understand, and here's what one thing you kind of, I don't know if you realize you were saying this, that is, included items is only the things that are mentioned in the listing that are included.
Okay.
So let's say, in your example, the TV that's attached on the wall your client wants. And you went in and you wrote stove, refrigerator, washer, dryer, dishwasher, microwave, and checked attached television, right? But the listing didn't say the television stays. legally you are going to have a battle to get the television, and you're going to say, but we checked the box and the seller signed. Included items are only the things that the seller says are included in the listing, period. If you want the television, but it's attached television, but it's not listed as one of the appliances that stays with the house, then you need to be on 22D and page 2 and check other. And that's where you write things that are not included in the sale that the seller said is. So there you would write, because they didn't check the box saying, oh, they're going to leave their attached television, you would on 22D, page 2, you would write, and I'd be very clear language, seller to leave bracket and television at closing.
And that's after you agree with the seller that they're going to do that?
No, you can write it that way in your initial contract.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, when you're writing your contract and your buyer says they want that, then put it in the contract. But if it's not listed in the contract that's going to stay, then don't put it in included items.
Okay.
And this is a mistake many people make with new construction, because the new construction, they may not have a refrigerator or a washer dryer. Agents think they're being really smart because they'll just check, well, we're going to get a refrigerator, washer, dryer, and they'll check included items. And then they'll get like 2 days, 3 days before closing, and they'll be like, the builder will become aware, oh, well, it says here, you're supposed to be, where's our washer, dryer, and refrigerator, because we checked the box. And the builder's going to go, I'm not getting you one. And then I get the phone call, well, what do we do? My buyer doesn't want to close. And I'd say, well, you better talk to an attorney, but I'm pretty sure the attorney is going to say, that builder never said he was getting a washer, dryer, or a refrigerator. And included items is things the seller said are included with the sale, not the things you want to add to the sale.
This is so helpful. Thank you.
So you need to, and then one little other side note with builders, I would not blindly just say on 22D other builder to, put in a washer, dryer, refrigerator. Because if that's all you wrote, he's free to put whatever washer, dryer, refrigerator he wants into that house. It doesn't even have to be new. Because you just said a washer, dryer, and a refrigerator. And agents do that. And the whole thing is you got a buyer buying a brand new house, all new. They're going to have in their mindset exactly what they want that washer, dryer, and that refrigerator to be. Rather than say that, I think it's better to say on a 22D, seller to provide a credit up to whatever amount they want, like $3,000 or $4,000. Credit to the appliance dealership, or not dealership, that'd be a car, appliance store, that the builder works with.
You're so good, because that helps us going forward.
But that way, because see, the builder then is like saying, yeah, sure, we'll give you a credit, $3,000 over at Albert Lee. Your client gets to go in, and they pick whatever they want. If it's over $3,000, they pay the additional. And in the way you write it up, it's not like they're paying closing costs. This is a specific thing of what they're using it for. So your lenders won't have an issue.
Oh, that's fabulous.
All right.
Thank you. Shall I carry on, or would someone else like to ask another question right away?
Go ahead.
Okay, super. All right, so title contingency, 22T.
Yeah.
Under the addenda. Mm-hmm. So is that we would use that with every single transaction, am I correct?
Yeah.
God bless you.
Excuse me.
Yes and no.
Okay, how?
Well, 22T, let's first pull it up. Let's see. Let's get out here. I just wish these computers could just respond to my voice and not kind of touch anything.
Soon enough. So yes, it's going to happen really soon, Eric.
I'm dating myself, but I like
You're going to be able to go chalkboard and then write this for me. All of that.
It's going to be better than that. I'm just going to say, can you move this money here and bring me this and do that?
Jetsons.
Okay, 22T. All right. Yes and no. Yes, you can put 22T in every contract. No, you don't have to put 22T in every contract.
What is 22T?
Title contingency.
Now, why
It's your
not?
choice.
But why?
Well, first of all,
Makes it
in
cleaner.
the first 5 pages of your contract, there's a paragraph about title, and it says title has to be free and clear of all encumbrances to close. Correct?
Yes.
So why would you need a 22T when it already says that?
Got it. Redundant.
Well, you do want 22T sometimes.
Like when?
What 22T does is it's saying every single time you get a title report, and you know how it is once you go mutual, you get emails. Oh, here's an update to title. Oh, here's a new update. Every time you get those new updates, then 22T timeline begins again. 22T is a way out of a contract. The way you get out is you have to explain to the seller that your client wanted to use the property in a specific way, but the title is showing that they can't use the property that way. Because an example to explain is this person wants to take this 2-story house and build a 3rd story on top. But the height restrictions of the city might be, oh, you can't build a 3rd story because it's as tall as we allow height to go. Well, if you didn't have a 22T, you couldn't get out. Because let's say you've already waived inspections and everything, and now you're learning, oh, my buyer can't build a 3rd story, they're pissed off, they're closing in 10 days. If you have a 22T, the next time you get a title report hit, new update, the 5 days begin, and then you could send over that you're getting out on 22T because they intended to build a 3rd story. They're not able to use the property like they intended, therefore you can get on 22T. Because see, in this an example, they still could sell the house free and clear of encumbrances, which is in the bulk language of the contract. But 22T is your way of saying, yes, we know it's all free and clear to close, but we can't use the property with the intended use we wanted to. So if you, let's say, whatever you buy, you should always ask your client, say, hey, what are your plans with the property? I don't worry about 22T that often unless they start telling me, that, oh, yeah, we want to build a garage out back. I'm like, oh, okay, let's put a 22T in, because this is a true story. Someone wanted to put a garage. There was an alley. It was in West Seattle. They put in a 22T. Well, he wanted to build a big garage, big enough to hold all his tools, shop tools, and be able to, park a few extra trucks in there for his business and run his business out of there. Well, they found out like a week before closing that the city would not allow him to build a garage that big, and 2, he wasn't zoned there to where he could even operate that as part of his business coming and going. So they got out of the deal on 22T because they said we can't use the property as we intended. If they didn't have 22T, they would have been stuck. They would have had to buy the property or lose their earnest money.
Even if the 5 days has already
passed? No, you have to watch timelines. Always watch timelines.
So 5 days on the 22T, and it resets every time we get new info.
Yeah.
And if that 5 days, say we get new info, but now 5 days has gone past that, is it still, you can still come back to it if the garage can't be built, or does it?
You get out every time it doesn't matter what's really on the title report update. It's just every time you get an update, the 5 days begin.
Okay.
But let's say you're 5 days before closing, and now you learn, and you're already past the last 5 days. Right. You might tell them to go see an attorney and get their advice if they could still get out on it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, perfect. You're brilliant. Thank you.
All right.
More brilliant than I thought it would be.
Great.
So, so number 12 on the purchase and sale.
You're taking me back to 21?
21.
Yes, I'm still on 20. I'm going in an orderly fashion. All right, so the closing agent the payment of utilities, that's supposed to be filled in by the listing agent, and is that ever
You're talking about
something you have to
22K.
chase?
22K utilities and
Oh, yes, I beg your pardon, 22K. Is that ever an occasion where you have to chase them, or is that something they'll just get done? I mean, there's a timeline on that, so I just wonder if it's something I should be babysitting, or is that something that people just naturally take care of? People.
Did you know there are a lot of lazy agents?
Yeah.
22K is one.
Okay, so really chase that.
And I am guilty of it too.
No.
You throw 22K in as the buyer's agent, comes back, everything's all initialed everywhere, but they didn't fill it in. When we throw it off to escrow, we don't even think twice. But the reason I do that, or don't worry about it too much usually, is because, you know, they're in the city of Bellevue, Kirkland, or Seattle, and the escrow agents pretty know who all the utility companies are. But yes, the seller should fill that out.
Okay, but if it doesn't happen, it's not something I'm going to be worried about or chasing them about?
Well, probably not worried about, but here's what I would be saying. If you're in Kirkland, Bellevue, Seattle, we all pretty much know who all the utility companies are. It's pretty simple. But let's say it's out on Auburn, or you're up in Snohomish. They start getting different utility companies going on that we don't all know. I would want to make sure I knew them all, because especially if my buyer's moving out of Seattle and moving up there, I would want to make sure everything is being, you know, I would want to know everything just to be able to tell my buyer, here's all the utility companies you need to be setting up with to provide better service.
Okay, so, all right, so that added some
So
value. I was
usually
gonna ask about.
how soon that is like too late, the seller not filling in, like how many days?
I think it says 5 days.
5 days.
5 days, yep.
Technically, if you're a listing agent, and let's say you get a unruly buyer, you might be leaving a window open where they could argue that you never filled this out and you broke contract. Now, would that uphold in court? I don't know. That's a decision between your client and the lawyer they hired to get their advice, who might say, yes, this is worth getting out on 22K because they never supplied you with the utility company information.
Okay.
So you need to remember, even though you want to be a lazy agent, you should talk to your clients. Sometimes you'll see 22Ks pre-filled out, along with 22Js attached to listing agreements. They do that because they pre-fill it out so they know it's taken care of.
So can I say one thing that I learned on a recent contract offer I put in? So on the 21, it asks for the utilities, yes or no, or a check. So the listing agent had already posted the utilities, so I put waived, thinking that was waiving.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so what I realized was, and that we ended up not getting it, which was a good learning experience. But what I understand now is that that's just asking escrow, giving
No brainer to put a 22K in.
Okay.
Now, I've had agents call and say, well, how do we know if they paid everything off? Because my seller's really nervous. This is, they're assuming all these things to get in the deal, and I'll say, well, I don't know. Why don't you call the utility company?
And see who it's.
Tell them you're a buyer of this property and you just want to verify if there is any past dues on the utilities. They probably won't tell you amounts because you're not on the account, but they could at least say it's current or not.
I have a question. How come you did that? Was it to make your offer look better?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
just trying. I had nothing really to offer,
Okay.
so I was just looking for.
I was just wondering. So you should never ever waive 22K. That's what you're saying.
It's your choice. I never say never, because there'll be some times where I'll be like, let's just make it work.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want to get in. What if they say say, oh my God, we have an assessment on our house because we haven't paid the utility bill the last year. Maybe then, but it's multiples, you want to waive it because you want to assume it to let the buyer know, or the seller know. Don't worry about that old charge you still owe on utilities. One of my favorite questions is agents will say, well, we're really concerned because this house has been vacant and it's a short sale, and if they owe a lot of money on utilities, and first thing I say is there power? Yes. Well, then chances are the utility bills are not that far in arrears, if they are at all. Is there power? No. Probably because they didn't pay their bills. So yeah, there probably could be
That's good.
some money owed.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. That makes sense.
So with your buyers, it's not a bad idea to let them know, you know, it looks like they've listed all the utilities companies, and perhaps you want to check to make sure that things are switching over on the day that you're taking possession.
Well, a lot of your buyers, especially first-timers, you know, they don't know everything. A lot of buyers assume that with 22K, escrow's setting up all their utility accounts. And escrow will not set up utility accounts. Your clients do.
Unless it's with a condominium and it's in the
Only
HOA.
thing a condominium will do is whatever the HOA does. But if you have to pay your electricity in your condo, you have to set up the account. No one else will.
Okay,
No one can set up your utility account but yourself.
okay.
How soon can they do that? They can't do it until after close, or can they
No,
start?
you set all your utilities up before closing because you say, I'm the new owner of this house. We'll take possession on this date. And so, you know. But the other thing you got to realize is that utilities, they don't just miraculously come and turn it off the day you close if you haven't set up your utilities. They don't. Because they assume someone else is going to call in and set it up. So if it's the day after closing and your client calls to set up utilities, you know, they just say, when did you become an owner? You just tell them.
So that might be
Because because see, here's the other flip side. You have a seller who's calling the utility companies and they're saying, we are no longer the owner as of this date.
as of close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the utilities company don't just, okay, power's off, waiting until someone calls to turn it on. They don't. Because the power is still on until, you know, maybe if no one turns it in a week or two, maybe then they'll shut it down if they see usage is happening. But you need to let your client know that they need to set up their utilities because escrow will not. And you will not.
Okay.
Did that answer all your
You
questions?
certainly did, and you gave me more than I needed. No, I should say you gave me more than I expected. Yes, that's what I meant. Thank you
And you
so
have high
much.
expectations to start with. So awesome.
Am I on now?
Yeah, you're always
And they
on.
can
I'm
see?
just making. They can't see you yet. I'm trying to figure it
Oh,
out.
they just hear me.
Yeah, they hear your beautiful voice.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
see what happens? I get new computers and they say it's all easy, and it's a lie.
Oh,
it's a
it's
lie.
not.
It's horrible. Horrible to set up a new computer.
Yeah, they all can hear you. And
Any questions from my viewing audience?
Lenny asks, and the seller can't afford to turn them on. Is that a statement or a question, Lenny?
That made no sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll
I think I
report back.
may know what the question is, but
Yeah.
we'll hear back. Anything down this end? Hello? Any questions?
Not on the kid.
No?
I guess I have a question. I have had a home close on Friday. Woohoo! First one of the month.
Yay! Oh
Yay.
my
I'm
gosh.
gonna live for a little longer.
So exciting.
And we got there, and so they had my buyer was going to negotiate for the outside furniture, and the barbecue was out on the deck.
Yeah.
They offered $300. The seller was like, "Are you kidding me? It's worth $1,000 minimum." So they said no, and what they did was they took the furniture but left the piece of shit barbecue and a mattress that was inside the house.
Yeah.
Now my buyers are there on Saturday,
And they're like,
and they emailed the listing agent directly because they had been communicating with these guys were my pain in
Yeah.
the butt buyers. And so, whose responsibility is it to get the barbecue and the mattress off of there? He quotes it's going to cost $157 for somebody to pick it up, and da 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 da.
well, bottom line, okay, the contracts say, especially if you check the box, any items left on the property, guess what? The buyer owns. Do sellers leave home properties? Yes, all the time.
How do we not let that happen?
What do? I'm guessing you're about to hire a company to come and haul that stuff all the way to the dump for your buyer because you're a good agent and you want referrals and you don't want their last bad taste to be they have to get rid of a stupid mattress and a barbecue.
How could we have avoided that before closing?
How could you avoid it before closing?
Yeah.
Well, it says you can walk on the property 5 days prior. If you walk on the property and you see that they've moved out and there's still crap in the house,
Yeah, I guess I could.
then you have 5 days to try to put pressure
so that's just
on
good
them.
practice. Then
Okay,
we go in.
but now let's take this further. So you're putting pressure on them, and now you're calling me because it's the day before closing, and you're saying my buyer won't close until all this crap's out of the house. They haven't moved it, and what do I do? Well, what you do is you tell them they better be calling a lawyer ASAP because I'm willing to bet that a judge would say just because they left crap in the house is not a reason to stall closing, and your client didn't close, therefore they breached contract, and the seller gets their earnest money. Just because the seller doesn't do some inspection items does not necessarily mean you can stop closing because you say they broke contract. That's a question only a lawyer can answer.
Okay.
Because a judge is always going to say, was this a reason to delay closing, or was this something that really wasn't that big a deal? So yeah, you get things left by sellers, they get really upset. You call the listing agent, see if you can get something going, but I'm willing to bet you, in your case,
She hasn't responded.
that mattress and the barbecue, the listing agent's not going to respond. Now, if it was me, I would respond. But I'm the kind of agent, I want my reputation too. She's not thinking about her reputation. I would, if it was me, I would just say, yeah, I'm sorry, my clients were really rude. I'll take care of it for you. Because I want that agent to say, wow, Eric took responsibility for his seller. But majority of listing agents out there will just say, sorry, it's on you. And that's being short-sighted because, yes, the seller was wrong. Yes, I want to make sure that it's fixed for my buyer so that my buyer doesn't have to deal with it. The listing agent takes care of it. I'd be really happy because then I can act like the hero to my buyer. That got taken care of.
Okay.
But if the listing agent didn't take care of it, then I'm going to trash that agent. Think about relationships, folks, but I'm going to trash that agent for not making sure their seller completed the contract. But I want you, buyer, to know that I don't want you to suffer because of their being a bad agent, and I'll pay the $150 and haul it out.
Okay.
Trust me, all agents, there will be a time you will be buying your client a washer, dryer, or a fridge, or something someday to make something right. Because you want to be long-sighted, you want referrals, and if you are short-sighted and say, well, screw you, there's nothing I can do, well, that person's not going to tell 10 people out there that you'd be a great agent to work with. Yeah.
So to your point, I was in a purchase last year, and I did a walkthrough, and lo and behold, after the closing, the following day, we realized the washer and dryer is missing.
Oh.
Now, washer and dryer were not really important items. They weren't high end. My clients wanted something that was much different. So we're willing to let that go. Had they not, though, I would have probably had to step up.
Well,
Washer and dryer.
Could you repeat the question for online?
The question was, he had a sale close a year ago, and it closed, and nobody noticed until after closing that the seller took the washer dryer with them, even though the listing said washer dryer stays. First of all, always read what they say appliances stay. Don't assume that all appliances stay, because many times a washer dryer will not be listed as staying with the house because the seller wants to take it because they just bought it.
Can I ask real
What?
quick? So in that scenario, if say a washer dryer was not included in the listing,
Mm-hmm.
but when you submitted the offer, you saw the washer dryer was there, and you checked washer dryer on the purchase and sale agreement. And
You don't get it. You weren't here. I already answered that question at the beginning today.
Okay, carry on then.
Here's a question online.
Wait, let me finish this
Okay.
question.
Sure.
So, yeah, you could have ended up having to get a washer dryer, but they didn't care, so that's nice. But yeah, if an appliance is gone and you've closed, folks, are you going to get that seller to come back and buy you an appliance? Probably not. Probably not. Will the listing agent help you? Maybe, but probably not. Because what's the incentive to do it? They got a happy seller who got away with a washer dryer who will probably refer him business. They're not thinking about their reputation. Okay? So that answers your question. And to your question really quick, you only can check in those boxes things that the seller says in the listing are included in the sale. That's it. If you want to add a washer dryer that's not included in the sale, you better put it on 22D other. Okay.
Online question from John. On the included items, what if the buyer does not want the washer and dryer being offered and wants to make sure that the seller removes them before closing? Is it possible to make sure that the seller removes them?
Well, if you want the seller to remove the washer dryer that they say is included with the sale, then you better put it in the contract, 22D, and say seller to remove washer dryer from property prior to close. That's all you do. And then don't check washer dryer on page 1. Okay?
All right.
Question.
Yeah.
This may be a very stupid question. I'm so confused with what addendum should be included in, because every transaction is different.
Yeah.
So now I have a couple buyers, but I cannot be every single one to send. But how did you know what to put, what addendum to put? Is there any list that, oh, this type of buyer, they want this, then you should have the utility, you should have the J, K, and thing. I mean, how did you know?
It's magic. That's how I know.
I want that magic. I want that magic.
First of all, there's no stupid questions. The only way you're ever going to know what addendums you want to attach to a contract is to write contracts. There are standard things that almost every contract's going to have. You know you have a financing addendum. You always put in 22D, 22K. You're probably going to have a 35 because of an inspection. A 22J if it's, built before 78. Those are always going to be standard. Beyond that, that's why you have all these forms on Express Docs and in .loop. And all I can say is watch my contract videos or just start looking at all the forms and read them. I mean, there was a day when I was starting out and I was new, I just was like, oh, I have some time to kill. I'm a new agent. And I just read through them. I just went through and started going, well, what's this one at? And I just started reading them, and I didn't even sweat about if I remembered every single one. I just wanted to read them to know what was out there. But out of that, I kind of got an idea of like, oh, okay. And then I kind of know what's out there if I need it. And then when I write contracts, I would think, oh, if there's a septic on site and it's not a sewer, there must be something about septic, and there is. Oh, their water isn't just normal water flowing from this city, but they have a well. Well, guess what? There's a well addendum. It just depends on the property. You have to decide what you want to use.
So let's say I wrote this contract. If we send it in, either whoever review it, they will catch it, right? If I'm missing something.
No.
Nobody will catch it.
Oh, that's a good question. Will a seller teach me how to write a contract for my buyer
No, I mean like you guys.
because I missed something?
Like, Greg or whoever review the...
If you go to, yes, you can go to Greg, David. I mean, yes, you can ask an agent in your office, hey, real quick, did I miss anything? Yes.
Yeah.
But do not think the listing agent's going to teach you. I certainly went in that circumstance.
Okay.
And trust me, An experienced agent, if you start asking certain questions, we know you're new
Yeah.
instantly.
Mhm.
And, you know, we'll be nice. We'll be nice on the parts we need you to get done. But if we see you blatantly forgot to check a box that benefits my seller,
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to tell you. That's not my job. Your job was to know that contract before you wrote it. So, yeah, if you have questions on a contract, then, yeah, ask an experienced agent or
Yeah.
Greg or David and just say, hey, can you just let me know I have all the right addendums? That's fine. Okay.
Okay, so earnest money, earnest money B. So if my purchaser, if my buyer puts their earnest money in an envelope addressed to the escrow company and leaves it at my desk and someone's picking it up, that's nothing to do with us.
Well, it is very common that we will, you know, you can set up a courier to come pick up an escrow check at the office. That's fine.
And if it's in an envelope, we haven't even touched it, then that's
Doesn't
the way to
matter
go.
if
It
you
doesn't
touch
matter?
it.
Okay. Somehow
I
I,
mean-
felt like if we touched it, then...
Fingerprints? No.
No, I
kidding.
just meant, no, I meant if we touched it, then we are the ones that are holding the money.
Well, you know how you're put on notice on the contracts when the email hits you, not when the email gets to your client? The fact that a check was brought into you with your name on an envelope or whatever in the escrow office, you would be accountable for it, whether you touched it or not.
Okay.
All right?
So how do you make it so that it's the least amount of chances things aren't going smoothly?
What's your fear of the check first?
I just want to be sure that it kind of skips us and it goes directly to the escrow company, but people aren't necessarily willing to drive their escrow money.
Well, it comes down to what's your value compared to Redfin? Are you going to make a little more, are you happy to run by, pick up a check from your client and deliver it to escrow? Or are you going to say, oh, escrow's over in Bellevue, downtown Bellevue, you can drop it off?
Yeah, that's true.
I just
always
said I'll
pick it up.
arrange for a courier.
Or you can arrange for a courier.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
I
You
always
could
pick it
arrange
up.
for a courier to pick it up here.
Mhm.
You could arrange for the courier to pick it up at their business, at their home.
Okay. So
Wherever.
we really have to bring it here. It could have been.
You could have a courier pick it up wherever you want. You need to contact escrow and arrange with them that, hey, we want a check picked up at this address, and let your client know you did all that. Don't be the kind of agent that tells your client, oh, yeah, just contact escrow and you can arrange for a courier. It's like, okay,
No, do it for them
then
for
why
sure.
don't I just go down the street to Redfin?
Exactly.
Because I thought you were a full-service
That's
agent.
why I did it, but I want to make sure that it kind of worried me that he brought it in, I told him just put it in an envelope addressed to this company and just leave it at my front desk and I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
But then I worried that, oh my God, I have that money coming to Keller Williams East Side, and even though it's going to the escrow company and I'm going to get something signed from them and all that,
Right.
it concerns me when I see this big paragraph, 2 big paragraphs on a contract. I just want to make sure I'm following protocol for our
Well, you
great
should know
office.
this. If your client is arranging to have a courier pick them up, the check, then you have to get that check there 2 days, not 3 days.
I was just gonna say, I remember there's something different about,
Because the contract, if you read at the top under earnest money, it says your client has 2 days to get that money, earnest money, to escrow. If the client gives you a check, like yours did bringing a check in, then you get to add 1 additional day on the 2, so then you have 3 days to get this money to escrow. So if your client's going to say, oh yeah, I'll just drop a check off, do not let them drop that check off on day 3 because they just broke contract. They have
I
to
did follow
deliver in
that.
2 days. So what I do on all my contracts, and I would suggest you do it on all your contracts, is you put Form 31 in the contract, the promissory note. for earnest money. And you fill it out and you check the box, will be delivered within 3 days of mutual acceptance. That way, you are now officially have 3 days to get the money to escrow. Excuse me. You have 3 days to get the money to escrow so that if your buyer wants to hand deliver that check on day 3 now, you're not out of contract. Because you just said we're going to take 3 days to get things to escrow.
Is a promissory note a check? That's the same thing?
A promissory note is basically you're promising you'll get the deposit of earnest money into escrow within 3 days.
Okay, regardless
You don't
of what
have
instrument.
to show a
You're
copy
promising.
of check
Okay.
with a promissory note. Get out of the habit of showing checks in an offer.
Ooh.
I see agents sending me offers and they'll have a copy of the earnest money check and I can see the bank account number
Black it out.
and I can see the routing number, and you just divulge confidential information over the internet where people are watching real estate transactions. And you know how we have all the fraud with wire transfers
Right.
going on? They can also see you going around and they can start pulling up your contracts and see bank routing information all on a bank account that should not have been divulged. And don't think that can come back and sue you. It can. And there's no law saying yet we better be doing that, but we are strongly advising everyone, if you want to still take a check and you still want to put a copy of it with your contract, you better black out the routing numbers and black out the account numbers. If you have an all-cash deal and they say, here's all my statements, double check to make sure there's no account number on there, no social security number on there, no routing numbers on there, because if there are, you better be blacking them out before you send that across the internet.
And on the seller side, if they're seeing all the offers come in and they see promissory note checked as opposed to checked, same thing. They don't. It's not a.
Okay, if an agent called me and said, "Well, how do we know you know? It says there's a promissory note. How do I know you're going to give it? You have the money." I was asked this. I haven't been asked this in years, but when 31 started to get used, people were all concerned about that, and I would calmly say to the person, the contract's just saying I have to get earnest money there within 3 days. Whether I show you a copy of the check now or not doesn't change the fact
Okay.
we're putting it there in 3 days. This isn't a note that says, oh, we promised to put it in 20 days.
So maybe on the email overview, when you send the offer in and use promissory, maybe put something to remind the agent that it's. I don't know.
If you want, I don't remind the agents what it means because I like to assume my
Yes,
agent
yeah.
on the other end is intelligent enough to read a contract and
savvy.
understand it
Yeah.
and not be worried. Most agents are very familiar with what Form 31 means.
Okay.
And what you guys realize, Form 31 makes your life easier. Because now, guess what? You don't have to have a check in hand the moment you write the contract. Because here's what agents would do. Oh, let's write the contract. I'm going to send this to you electronically to sign, blah, blah, blah. Oh, can you just write out a check to escrow right now and scan it and send that over to me so I can attach that now to the offer? Because I'm going to put a Form 89 in saying, and check the box that, yeah, I have the check. You just broke law. You could be prosecuted because you did not have that check in your hand and you just fraudulently checked the box on Form 89 in the contract that, yes, I have the check in hand. Because when you sign Form 89, you're guaranteeing that escrow check is in your possession now. And agents would do this, scan it over and tell them, oh, I don't need the check unless we get mutual.
You're saying that the Form 31
Form 31.
keeps us from having to do that.
Yeah, you don't
Wait
have
till we
to
actually
worry about,
put it in our-
if you have a Form 31, you can sit in your home office, write up a contract, send everything over, get it all signed. You're not committing fraud because you're not having to say, make a copy of your check and send it over to me.
That's interesting. I've always done the check, and I started. I know what's happened for me in the past is I cross out the routing numbers, and then we're on our third offer, and I'm like, okay, write a check, and then I forget to cross out the black. So I know I've done it, but yeah, that's good to know that.
I have not seen an earnest money check in years.
Oh, thank God, I don't have anything coming to you. So you'd be like, oh, here's an agent. Just our own office. No.
No, I'm ever since I learned about Form 31, I was like, God, this is easy. Because the majority of my clients, they don't even want to write checks. They want to wire transfer. You don't want to use you can't use Form 89 if they're going to wire transfer, right? You use a Form 31, right? So why would an agent be freaked out if you throw a Form 31 in? All you have to say to them is they're going to wire transfer. Okay, great. What if they write a check later? Do I have to tell the agent? I wouldn't bother. Just get the check in there, get it in 3 days, you get an earnest money deposit. That's all they care. They're not going to go, oh, you said it was going to be a wire transfer when you told me on 31, and now you wrote a check. They don't care. Just use Form 31, not Form 89.
Online question.
What?
So, Lenny asks, what happens if you get into contract, but the utilities are off, and you need them on for inspection?
That's a good one.
And the seller cannot afford to turn them on.
That sounds like a short sale. Okay. You want to do an inspection on a house, and guess what? The utilities are all turned off. And you're telling the seller, turn on the utilities, and the seller says, I don't have any money because that's why I'm selling my house, and because that's why there's no power. If there's powers off in a house, do not think any seller will ever turn it on for you. There's a reason it's off, folks. They can't pay the bill. It's a pain in the butt. You have to take it on as the buyer's agent and make sure all that's turned on. So that means you need to call the utility companies, you tell them the address, and you say we want to turn it on. And then guess what? You're probably going to have to pay. I've done it. I've done it in Redmond. It was a short sale. Everything's turned off.
Did you do it in your name?
I had to, basically, they will tell you when you call turn it on. They'll say, you have to, they will open an account for you. You may have to make a deposit.
Oh, wow.
But I had to turn on the electricity for the day, and I had to turn the water on. No, and I had to turn gas on. And electric was easy. Well, yeah, you have to explain to them exactly what you're doing. We're doing this inspection, and I only need it on one day. And I think the total cost was like $70 to get it all done. But here's the other thing you got to realize. When you say you want it turned on for that day, you better be there early enough, because the water, they told me right up front, what time do you want us there? Because we will not turn water on a house unless there's someone in the house when we do it to make sure there is no water running that shouldn't be running. Because generally when these homes are, turned off, all the faucets are turned on, so pipes drain. So they won't just drive by, turn it on, you show up 2 hours later.
You can have $1,000.
So so you have to arrange this timing. So you got to get your timing down. And when I turned the water on that day, they were there at the moment they said they would. They turned it on, and guess what? They were there in the afternoon at the exact moment they said they would be back to turn it off.
That's impressive.
And so, yeah, so that's what they get to do.
All right. So, 1 second. Yeah, she says thanks, Robbie.
Okay.
So, question. Okay, he was ahead of me.
Another topic on the 22D on a resale cert. If there was a mistake, property manager has to amend the resale cert. Does my 5-day review period then start all over?
Yes. But no. Okay, if you get a resale certificate and you said the HOA made a mistake and had to reissue it, then yes, your 5-day review period will begin again because it was a mistake. Now, if you have a resale certificate and then they want to send you an update of minutes or something, because let's say they had a board meeting between the issue of the resale and closing, so now they're saying, oh, we just had a board meeting, here's our updated minutes. Does that start a new 5-day window? No, because the resale certificate was fine. They're just sending you an update of minutes. So that's why I'm saying it's a yes and a no.
So in this case, they did make a mistake, which my client found.
Yeah, if they made a mistake and have to reissue a new one, then yes, you get a 5 days to go again. And I just got that answer officially from Annie Fitzsimmons last week.
Nice.
Nice. Well delivered.
Question. So buyers going with a D.R. Horton builder, what are the documents or contracts that we, as part of Keller Williams, need to get from them other than the disclosures that we have to provide, which I got them initialed and their signatures? Anything else that we have to do for the contracts to go through?
The question is when you're working with builders on new construction and they give you a contract, and in many circumstances they'll say, no, we only use our contract.
Yes.
So they won't let you add addendums and this and that and the other. And his question was, what do I need to do for Keller Williams forms or whatever? All we require is get those disclosures, which you did, and then use D.R. Horton's contract.
Okay, and am I, as the selling broker, going to get access to all the forms to be able to attach for our contracts review, if you will? I have all the forms that were attached as part of emails put in a dot loop. And I do have the initial disclosures that I sent my clients who are working with D.R. Horton. That's also here. What else do I need? It's a jumbled mess. I'm just
you
trying
need
to make
a contract. You still need your mutual email. You need your disclosures. Are you doing an inspection?
The offer acceptance. Yeah. No, it's a new home that they're building on lot. So,
you're not going to do an inspection? Have you read their contract? I'm pretty sure it says in there that what a lot of the builders will do nowadays is they'll say, no inspection allowed, no Form 35. The reason is they don't want you to tell them that when the house is ready to be looked at, that you want out of the deal now because you've sat on it for 5 months and you just don't want to buy the house. They want your commitment and that money. So they won't allow you to do the Form 35. But if you read most of their contracts, they'll say, if you want to do an inspection, it's fine. But they won't let you put a 35 in because they're like, it's fine if you want to bring an inspector with you. They want you usually to do it before they'll do their walkthrough with you. So they have like a week to address items on it. But basically all they're saying is by not allowing you a Form 35, they're saying, yeah, you can bring an inspector in to help you create your punch list of little things you want done in the house, but you don't get to walk away from this deal if we don't do them all. Okay?
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And no, wait, one more thought on that. Don't be an agent who says, well, we're not going to do an inspection because it's brand new and it has a warranty, so everything's fine. And the builder said they'll do a walkthrough with us. Well, guess what, folks? That builder walkthrough, they just want to show you how they'll lightly say, well, here's the books, how the appliances work. And they'll talk to you a little bit about maybe the furnace. And they'll walk around and go things like, oh yeah, we still need to hook up the stove. They're not walking around opening every drawer and every cabinet door to make sure they soft close correctly, that they're lined up, that nothing sticks. They're not going around plugging in on all the electric to make sure if the GFI has been set up correct. They're not looking at a lot of stuff.
Including sewer, right? Sewer inspection.
No one's going to look at a sewer except a sewer inspector.
True. So that's also something that I suggest that these people.
So basically, you do want them in because the best eyes for your buyer always is an inspector, because they can come in and they can see all these little things. And then what you do is then you write up a very detailed punch list. You don't just say, here's the inspection report, fix everything on it, because that builder will not do half of it, because they're busy guys and they're not going to read the small print, and they're only going to do what they think they need. You need to make it very detailed list. Item 1, do this. Reference photo 2J, if there's like labeled 2J, photo from the inspection, so they can see where it is. But you have to be very detailed, you know, in the master bedroom, outlet on north wall, connect, you know, whatever, is what you do. Because then it's a true punch list items, list of items, and they can just go through and cross them off as they do.
Okay, thank you.
I once was caught in a new build situation where when we walked the property, they had the bark out up to the fence line, and what we didn't see until we were in that period of waiting for completion, we saw that the grade between our lot, the adjacent lot, had a 5-foot drop, which was not reinforced with any concrete blocks and no retainer walls. So we went back to the builder and we asked them what they would do about it. They told us to go pound sand, so to speak.
What'd you do?
We went to close, and the owners hired a contractor to reinforce. And what we were concerned about, we did get a geotech, so we wanted to make sure that the soil was stable next to the foundation, which was closest to this drop-off. And we were able to get a certification. So we kept inspecting it. We did inspect, but that didn't mean that we got it done.
Right.
So when you're dealing with a builder, caveat emptor, they can decide what they will and will not do.
Right. You want to get everything in writing with builders. They're notoriously walk around the house and say, yeah, we'll do that for you. And you're like, well, you don't put it in the contract. Well, they said they'd do it. They won't. But yeah, you got to be really detailed when you create those punch list items. You know, the situation you're describing, though, where if you might have, if they got a lawyer, they might have been able to force it because they might have found a code issue about requirement.
We did check code.
And code said no?
Code came out, county came out.
And called them out on it?
Did not.
Really?
Yes.
They
Very
thought
sneaky.
Paid someone off.
Probably.
What city?
This was Martha's Lake.
Oh, well, there you go. Martha's Lake. Hello. You're way out in the boonies.
Well, not really. You wouldn't have thought so, but it's a good point. When you're on a new construction site, walk the whole damn thing, including the perimeter, and look at the outside of the fence.
Yeah, because builders are, you know, they don't want to do extras, but they'll do stuff if you ask at the right time, which is usually at the front end, not at the end. So, yeah, those builders, those pesky builders.
Just because it's completed doesn't mean that it's completed.
Yeah. Would you think to have a brand new sewer line looked at on new construction?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You better.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Those sewer lines break when they use heavy machinery on top of them. Because they'll put a sewer line in, and guess what? Doesn't mean they still don't bring a backhoe in and drive on top of that sewer line in the construction of that home.
How much is the inspection for sewer?
250.
250.
And I know for a fact, because guess what? I bought a townhome and I didn't do a sewer. Guess what?
What?
I was connected, though, with 5 other townhomes. It backed up. You know why? Because the whole sewer line was crushed out in the parking strip from heavy machinery.
And so so what happened? You had to.
Well, you know, you just don't want to be the builder who I buy from As long as everything's great, we get along great. No, I just called him up and just said, you got a real serious problem here. I said, I bought this place. I've lived here 1 month, and now I have a sewer line that's broken. I said, I'm pretty sure this is covered under warranty, but I would strongly suggest you get this resolved ASAP, because I am now living in what I consider a hazmat situation in a brand new home, and I am a really loud realtor.
Yeah.
And they had, the backhoe was there. It was all totally opened up. They had to put a whole new sewer line in, basically from where, because it was crushed the whole way. The only drag was it ripped up the crappy landscaping, which was basically a sod and an ugly tree. But that was fine, because then I got all my neighbors and I said, let's just do this right and make it better landscaping, which we did. But yeah, things happen with new construction. Do not think just because they buy new, everything works. You know?
And just having an inspector and also having that box checked may inspect sewer. That covers your...
What I was saying, no. I was saying with these builders, they're going to tell you, you cannot put a Form 35 inspection in the contract. But if you read their language, they'll probably say in there, you're free to inspect the home if you want to help create a punch list. Well, you can do that at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not separate. It's not like a separate little box.
They're not going to have a separate little box. Okay. They're just, because they're not giving you, they're not acknowledging that you can inspect and walk away. That's what you need to understand. Okay. If you walk through and say, well, it's selling, we don't want the house because of this, we found the sewer, or we found out, you can't. Because they don't allow you to put 35, so you can. Okay?
So, Eric, coming back to my initial question, what else do I need? I understand inspection and sewer inspection, and the initial disclosures are here. Offer acceptance, mutual is here. What else do I need?
And you have a contract in it's mutual, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I think you're fine.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
And if you're not, Michael will let you know.
Yeah.
But I think,
I'm just being proactive.
No, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
What about a Form 31?
No, it was actually builder financing itself. Are you talking about these clients of
Well,
mine?
I'm just asking. We want to add that in if we
31
can.
for earnest money check.
Oh, earnest money, it's
Just kind of start adding that to whatever.
Is it on the builder
The
form or
builders
something?
usually
Builder
hand
form,
it
yeah.
right over.
Just one page right there.
Builder, you got to understand,
We have
builder
somebody-
contracts you need to read. Most of them nowadays, especially like D.R. Horton, these guys who do lots of construction, you cannot add a Form 31. You cannot add a Form 35. You cannot even add a Form 22A. They have all of that spelled out in their contract already, made in language that benefits them, not your buyer, and they will blankly look at you if you send in any of those forms and say, all these forms cannot be in this contract. We will only work with our contract.
And was this like pretty much universal for?
Most builders are that way.
I've never bought a new house.
Now, if you buy from the smaller builders who say, run around and do like 4 townhomes here, 5 townhomes here, or spec homes there, a lot of them will have a builder's addendum, which gets attached to your contract that you write up, in place of saying we have our own contract.
Okay.
In fact, to your point about financing, even though you have your own lending resources, oftentimes a builder will require you to submit your client's approval or the documents for approval to their lenders.
Right. Yeah, because they'll say in the thing, you have to be approved by their lender. And you'll be like, well, we're already pre-approved. And they're like, builder will not sign. So then you have to tell your buyer, send all the same documents over from the other lender. Or sometimes I'll say, see if your lender can just talk to their lender and show them what they want to see. It's basically what I do.
This is so good up front.
And I think, too, you get a little more leeway with builders when you are offering during the slower months of the winter time.
Well, yeah, that's any time of the year with the sellers. Yes, a builder, if it's in the middle of winter and nothing's selling and you go to that builder and say you want to write an offer, they're probably going to be a little bit easier to get things out of them and
Like
2 months
easier
later in
financing.
spring when everyone's fighting to get into new construction. Builders have for a while now, for quite a few years, done nothing extra for your buyers, very, very little, because it all sells off the shelf. But if it shifts to a hardcore buyer's market and they've got 25 units to sell and they're sitting, those builders will start negotiating with you. Like, you can even negotiate in those kind of periods that they pay a sewer capacity charge off. They pay closing costs. Oh, you want an upgraded refrigerator? You know, they'll get more lenient.
When was the last full-fledged buyer's market?
The last? I would say the last full-fledged buyer's market was from the day, let's see, probably the end of 2008 when the phone stopped ringing because no one was buying because everything fell. And it probably lasted till end of 2011. You know, 11 and 12 things started. 11, 12 things slowly started to turn around so that.
That's a long time.
What?
This is a long time for the shift.
Well, think about it, folks. It's usually a 10-year, and normally it's a 10-year cycle. 5 years of it being slowly going to seller market, then peaks at seller market, then 5 years slowly now it's shifting into buyer's market to where you get down to the bottom and it's a hardcore buyer's market. And then it starts to go back up. Those are usually like 10-year cycles. Every 5 years it's peak sellers or 5 years peak buyers.
Does it follow at all the stock market?
No. Our cycles are nothing to do with the economy. It just happened to be with the economy that forced this shift in the market like it did so drastically. But buyer-seller markets are not necessarily tied to economics at all. It's about inventory. That's what's driving our seller market now. It's low inventory. But even with the low inventory, will it last? No, because what happens, you get buyer fatigue. Buyers will eventually say, I'm exhausted, this whole price thing in this area. We're just gonna, we just can't afford it. We're just gonna sit back. We're gonna wait. And the buyers will stop. That's what's happening at this very moment. That's why at this moment you can get buyers in on deals sometimes that they may be the only one. Because a lot of buyers at this, and it's right now it's the time of the year too, it's going to be 90 degrees this week. Nobody wants to go look at a house. They want to go on a boat. They want to go a kayak. They want to go on a hike. So a lot of buyers just pull out. But if you got a buyer and you've lost 3, 4, or 5 homes in a row, guess what? Unless you get that buyer inspired to keep going for number 6 and 7, they're going to get buyer's fatigue. They're going to think maybe I can't afford the market, or they're going to think you're an idiot agent because you can't get them into a place even though you did everything right. But you have a high, they might say, well, we're just going to give up now and enjoy the whole month of August, and then we'll see how we feel in the fall, and you'll check in. They'll go, we've just decided to wait a while. We just, we think prices are going to drop. It's gotten too expensive, So if you get a lot of buyers all doing that, even with inventories low, doesn't mean inventory is not going to still creep on. You're going to still see inventory coming on. And then eventually the inventory is going to get over 4 months. And then the buyers will start maybe coming back. But now that's shifted. Because if you've got 4 to 6 months, you're kind of on an even playing field. Those sellers aren't going to be able to make a lot of demands. Because they may only be getting one offer.
Eric, do you have any projections of where we're at now and within the next 4 months to 6 months?
If I did know what was going to be the next 4 to 6 months, I wouldn't be here because I'd be probably, I don't know,
Somewhere,
probably in
right?
the Caribbean.
Yeah, Cancun.
Sipping a
Maybe
Mai
I go on
Tai.
a safari to Africa again just because I'm rich. Because I know the future. I think right now what you're hearing from the majority of people is, we're in a summer slump. It's the typical summer slump. It's August. Buyers just pull back. Families go on vacation. It'll all pick up in the fall. We'll see. You'll know come September if it really was just a little slump, and because suddenly there'll be a lot more buyers coming back. I've had buyers kind of tune out in August and come back in September. But there will also be, because a lot of buyers are being told by their agents now, well, I know you don't really love it, hold off because we'll get new inventory in September and you'll have more choices. Because a lot of agents will hold back in August their listings and put them on after Labor Day.
I have some buyers that are trying to get in the Issaquah Highlands so they get their kids in school before, you know, and to get something under contract.
Right.
And so they're the one that we're looking at. The offer is they're reviewing offers tomorrow. My buyers are like, "Yeah, this one will do." And I'm like, "Oh God," you know, it makes you nervous because I'm like, they already walked once on inspection on a place that we did find in Issaquah Highlands. So I don't know. It just makes me nervous that they're going to be like, "Yeah, this will do," and then they'll walk at some point.
Do you say to them, "We shouldn't be writing it up if you think this one will do. You should be crazy about this if you want me to write this up"?
I've said that
Do
to
you
them,
say
but
that?
they're really they're like feeling desperate, and so I'll say things like, "I know you're feeling desperate, but
why don't they
can you
just
picture
rent? Okay, if your clients are getting desperate and they like, we just have to buy a house to be in the school just to get the kids there in September, I'd be like, then why don't you rent something in the Highlands so that you have an address here and you can send the kids to the school? Because most leases nowadays, they will say, here, we have a 1-year lease, and if you break it, you owe us 1 extra month's rent, period. Is it worth it to you to wait, get the right house, go rent something? Pressure of feeling you need to be in the right house is gone. So what if you have to pay an extra month's rent to get in a house?
So
in the big
rent,
picture, it's not a big deal.
So rent like a VRBO kind of thing, or rent what we rent in the, like a rent a home and
go rent a house that's within the school district that they want to have the kids go to. Because if they're renting and they're living in that school district, they get to go to the school.
Oh my God, that's what because the other thing is they can afford more once they sell their house, which is the other thing. It's oh
my God, get them in a rental now.
Perfect. There you go. So smart.
Oh my God.
No,
okay.
it's really good. You're
all right.
out. You can do that.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, you guys. You gotta think outside of the box in these times. You get sellers that are panicked. I can't find a place. I want to sell, but I can't get in a place time enough. I'm afraid. I tell those sellers right up front, okay, what are you afraid of? Being homeless? Well, yeah. Have you ever been homeless? No. So what makes you think this time in your life you'll be homeless? Well, because we just don't know where we'll find a house. Have you thought about renting? Oh, I don't want to deal with the hassles and moving twice and all that.
Right.
I go, yeah, I understand all that, but think of it this way. You're going to pack up your whole home. You don't have to unpack your whole home.
True.
You can leave things in storage.
To go to your new home when you
but
buy
here's the reality. If we sell your house and close, you don't have to buy contingent. If you buy contingent, your chances of getting in on multiple offers are probably almost zero.
Oh, I've tried. They won't.
So they won't consider you. So let's sell your house and go find a place to lease. Most leases will say they want a 1-year lease, but they will have a thing in there that if you break lease, you owe them an extra month's rent. Isn't it seem a little like, wouldn't it be nice to have that $700,000 you were going to plow the house, so now you don't have to buy contingent. Living in a place you've leased, knowing, oh, it's only going to cost me $3,000 to get out, but now I have time to find the right home I want and actually buy that beautiful home I like.
That's a great idea. So on the listing side of that then, so their house is probably going to be ready. They've been working on it for like 2 months. And it's pretty close to being ready to be listed, from my expert opinion, which I'm never sure of. But is August a bad time for them to list their house? Kind of what you just,
is August a bad time to list the house? Because Eric just said that buyers pull out, blah, blah, blah.
It's never a bad time to list.
That is a decision you're going to have to make with your seller. have a client looking at a place right now in Shoreline, and there's already 4 pre-inspections on it. So, do houses sell in August? Yes. Do houses get multiples in August? Yes.
Okay. It's in Bellevue. It's a great school district. I know there's going to be people that are going to be.
Well,
wanting to
look at it this way. You're in a Bellevue, you're in a good school district, and you have a client right now desperate trying to get into a school district. Well, if you have a house in a great school district, do you think there'll be more people desperate to get into it now, before school starts?
Or after school.
Or after
Yeah,
school?
okay.
That's a
Oh my
factor
God.
that might tell me, maybe I would tell my clients, you better
Yeah.
get that on next week and not in 2 weeks.
And I can go on the MLS and look for homes for rent, or go to VRBO or something like
Yeah.
that, right? Is that
Do you know about these two?
Quick online question.
Those are for apartments.
Eric.
What?
I do
Quick
get it.
online
I
question.
What's the
have to
question?
know about it.
Can earnest money checks be
Actually,
delivered to
flat.
any branch of the company?
Yes. But if you're going to deliver to any branch of the escrow company, do not deliver until you know from your escrow what is the escrow account number once it's been opened. You do not drop off an escrow check till that escrow's been opened, so that they can give the tracking number for their account when they deliver it.
Okay.
That you can upload that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we have time for one more.
Does anyone have something? I'm gonna jump right
Do
in.
it.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
So, with feasibility on the HOA, do you just generally let the deadline waive, or do you reply back?
The 5 days on HOA. There is no form that we send over officially to say we are waiving the HOA review period. It's automatically waived 5 days. Okay? Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, where is it? Oh, right here. Okay, so H on Form 21, which is about closing costs and blah, blah, blah.
An assessment.
Yeah, and basically it says, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't want to know that. I want to know about I, where it says listing broker and selling broker are authorized to report this agreement, including price and terms, to the MLS. What? I thought it was this always the listing agent. So this is confusing to me. I think that just because the listing agent was in charge of input. So why does it say and? And what do I need to do about that?
Okay, this is why I need my mouse, because this thing doesn't.
Why you need
Oh,
what?
I didn't bring mine.
What do you
Oh, I
need?
have my mouse. It's at
Oh.
Seattle office. I need. Okay, come on. Okay, here we go. Your answer's right, and it was there, but let me scroll down to it.
Thank you.
Get this scroller. Okay. Come on. Ugh. All right, I need my mouse because this hand thing just doesn't.
Oh, I swear I can only do it with a mouse too.
Is your screen a touch screen?
No, it's not a touchscreen. I don't have
like
that
a
new.
I do
Okay.
when I don't have my mouse.
Okay. What I is talking about here is that this will be public knowledge. Listing brokers, selling brokers are authorized to report this agreement, including price and all terms, to the MLS that published it, and it's to its members, financing institutions, appraisers, anyone else related to the sale. This is not saying whose responsibility it is to post on the MLS the sold. That falls on the listing agent because they're the ones who control the listing input. You as a buyer's agent have no way to go in and change the input. But this is not talking about who's responsible to report that to the MLS. This is a disclosure or disclaimer saying that it will be public knowledge, this sale, and that you no longer are under confidentiality once it becomes public knowledge that this has closed for whatever price. It's public knowledge as to what the closing costs are, because that's asked of us as sellers, as listing agents, where their concessions and how much. Beyond that is not, and I would never disclose any other pertinent details. But all you can talk about is what's public knowledge. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right? And that's it.
And that's a wrap.
All right, go sell houses.
Would you answer a realtor question, not a contract question?
We just had an hour and a half of contracts. What?
Just-
And you didn't ask?
But I was going to.
Oh, what?
When do you have the discussion with your clients about earnest money and like how if it's going to be a wire or if it's going to be cash or if it's going? When do you have that conversation?
When I'm writing the contract, I'll say,
Each individual?
yeah, when I write the contract, I said, have you thought about, do you want to do your earnest money as a check or a wire transfer?
Because it changes, it could change. But
Well, I still use Form 31 either way.
Alright.
Because Form 31 doesn't say it has to be a wire transfer or a check. It just says we'll get it there within 3 days.
What is that?
Okay?
I have olives.
Smell.
Is it olives? Like an olive smell?
It's like a chemically smell.
Oh, it smells like mothballs. I got a whiff of
I
that.
don't know what that is.
And cheese and
I have no idea what you're talking
Thanks for
about.
your time, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, go make some money today.
Come on. I got it fired.
Okay, stop streaming.
1 second.
So I stopped streaming. You shouldn't have it anymore.
I sure you had another question.
Stop
Yes.
recording. Stop streaming.
Okay, that's fine. Other than the MLS, Airbnb, are there other sources to find rentals? Craigslist?
Craigslist.
forrent.com, she just gave me, I'm
Oh.
sorry, I didn't catch your name. And hotpads.com.
This is Papa Joe.
Yeah, I can give it to you.
And
Yeah.
No, you won't make commission from it.
I'm going on the
You only
MLS
make
first.
you only make commission from the
MLS?
just FYI. You see what I-
Craigslist.com.